This is the problem with being OCD. So I went ahead and just started sanding a little more, a little more, a little more. Pretty soon I was like, you know what? I'm basically going to repaint the car except for the roof. I can always do the roof again later if I feel like I need to, but you know, the roof was actually pretty decent, all things considered. But the rest of it had a lot of issues, other than the rear bumper and obviously the front bumper. I mean, they get brutalized just from driving. So even if you had it absolutely flawless, you know, you drive and it's going to get bugs and stuff. So I have prepped it. I sprayed a sealer on some of the spots, which is why you'll notice that it's a different shade of gray compared to the areas that I just kind of sanded the paint down. I went as low as 600, but then I came back with 800, mainly because silver can fall into little gaps and create sort of weird colors and stuff. I wiped down the sealer with the paint prep, which is why you see some of these like swirly marks and stuff. I am hoping, because obviously the paint prep kind of works as a paint thinner and probably removed some of the sealer, I'm hoping that those streaks will disappear when I paint. There's only one way to find out, and that's to spray over it and see what happens. So that's what I'm going to do. But anyway, there you go. So hopefully this time it will come out at least as good as I did the rear bumper cover. If it does, hopefully that will satisfy me and I won't feel like I keep needing to sand and paint it. So, you know, every time you do it, you get a little bit better. So there is that. First base coat is on. There are a few areas that I can see right here. I need to make sure I get good coverage there. A lot of it looks really good and smooth. I did turn down the air pressure, I think 25 instead of 30. I can tell you the hood, you can see all the areas where I wiped with the paint prep. So that's not good. So I may have to sand that with like 1,000 grit or something and then put the second base coat on it rather than hoping to cover with more and more and more paint. But another area right in there. But yeah, I turned down the air pressure to 25. I closed the fan just teeny bit, you know, maybe quarter turn or whatever. I mean, obviously hoping to avoid tiger striping and runs, and I think I did a good job avoiding both of those. Second base coat is on. Looks much better, although it does look like I hit it right there, maybe with the hose or something, which is odd since I do my best to put the hose over my shoulder or whatever. But yeah, it's big difference from first to second base coat. I'm gonna go ahead and do a third coat. Normally I wouldn't, normally I'd only do 2 base coats, but I'm mixing it 3 parts paint, 1 part acetone, and it's a paint that it says that you don't need to reduce it or thin it. However, if you've seen any of my prior videos, I have noted that doing 3-to-1 seems to be kind of the magic to get it to spray a nice mist as opposed to chunks and so forth, which is probably why I'm getting good smooth finish, but looking like it needs a third, maybe even a 4th coat. We'll see. I'm spraying it real thin. I don't know if you can tell when I'm filming how thin, but it's not very thick coats for sure. So I'd rather do 4 real thin coats than 2 coats that run. Because, as you know, I'm a DIY, I'm not a professional, and I don't have all those skills to recover from mistakes as well as probably a professional does. So I got to do it right the first time. But yeah, she's looking so much better than she did before. So I think I'm ready to get hired by Mako. You can tell me what you think, but I'm not applying to Mako. Third coat is on. Like I said, I've been doing thin coats. I would say she's ready for clear. However, I am going to put a fourth base probably on the trunk lid part and on the hood, just to make sure that nothing shows through, because those are going to be real obvious spots if anything is not perfect. And there's just a little bit of grainy texture right now, so I need to probably put even more acetone in it to make sure it thins out and lays flat, because you don't want this textury paint, because when you do that and you clear on top of that texture, it makes the weirdest, ugliest looking paint job you'll ever see. But the rest of it is pretty smooth, so happy with that. Like I said, there's just sometimes a problem when you're spraying that. Seems like the gun gets clogged up as you're spraying, even though I'm constantly cleaning it in between coats and everything. I probably need to do what you might consider a heavy clean of the paint gun, just to make sure that you don't get this kind of textury paint. It's not quite bed liner texture, but it does have a texture to it, and that will not look good with clear on top of it. Ready for clear, and you'll notice I made one change to my masking, and that is to expose the door handles and the plastic mirrors. So I sanded them with a 600 grit, cleaned them with paint prep, and should be ready to go. Now I know some of you are going, wait, you need to do this. Well, it may not hurt to do it, but those were already painted with plastic paint, and I didn't sand that plastic paint off, so I'm just putting clear on top of paint, so it should stick fine. But yeah, if you want to put a paint prep product, adhesion promoter like that, it may work. I'll be honest, so I've had really bad luck spraying this stuff. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but it never seems to work the way it's intended. Anyway, ready to clear. I'll probably spray the clear somewhere 25 to 30 psi, 1.3 tip, and you'll see I'll go sort of at a medium pace. I want to get it, 2 to 3 thin coats rather than one thick coat with one thin coat on it. So I may go 3 coats, may only go 2, it just depends on what it's looking like. I'm going to use a slow reducer and a slow activator on my clear. The clear mix is 4-to-1 with the activator, and it is not quite 70 in here today. So we're below the temperature for slow. However, slow means it will lay smoother typically. This is the next day after clear. Clear has dried. So this is definitely my best paint job to date. Not surprising, I think you get better every time you do it. There are a few blemishes, certainly nothing that's just terrible, but obviously if somebody was paying thousands of dollars, they'd want these things fixed. But there's a little, I don't know what happened there. It's like the silver separated into black and white or whatever components, and it's just right in there. I don't know if it shows up or not. Then obviously there's some dirt, dust, whatever that's landed in it. I think that's just part of doing this in a shop like this as opposed to having a paint booth with ventilation and all that. I think I did pretty well with the masking. I did hit right there with the sanding when I was prepping it. Hopefully that will buff out. If not, touching up that part of the bumper would be a piece of cake. But overall, most of this dried very well. You can see where I blended. So I stopped painting basically there and didn't paint any of this, but I did paint this. So it blends well. A little buff right there will make those seamless. I think everything else on this side came out as good as I could expect with my skill levels and equipment and everything. I think the mirrors came out nice and glossy. The hood has a couple dry spots, orange peely. Probably sand them out and make it perfect. And I'll be honest, that's weird because it was never more than 70 degrees in here, and I used a slow activator and slow reducer. So those are meant for like 90, 95, whatever degrees. So you would think that it would smooth out, but it didn't. They obviously dried in the air and landed on there. But again, hopefully those will sand off and not be a problem. I did get a run, not surprised really, but it's just right there. I don't know if it shows up on camera, but again, that should be pretty easy to just sand and polish. I mean, it looks like it's two little droplets. So overall, for me spraying, to only have that kind of a run is pretty good. I don't know if the texture shows up or not, but it's mostly in the middle, and that part of that may be when I'm leaning across trying to not touch any of this and mess it up, that I'm not getting as thick a paint right in the middle. I don't know if it would be wise to stand on the platform or something, but anyway. But yeah, the rest of it came out very well. Again, there's my blend line where I painted up to here and didn't paint this, and I think that will buff and you won't ever be able to tell. Same thing there. And then obviously I didn't paint the bumper cover front or rear, but the rest of the car, it's making me proud. I think I did good work. It's before, honest to God, it looked like I used 4 different colors of paint because the silver was doing this stuff. Like I said, it was like it was separating, and one day, I think when I painted the doors, it was spraying out like chunks of dry paint instead of spraying nice silver. So yeah, it was awful. But now it just blends seamlessly because obviously I use the same paint all the way around, and it sprayed. It didn't, chunk out of the gun and stuff. So anyway, there it is. Thank you to several of the YouTube paint channels. I'm sure I'll forget some of the ones that I like to watch, but Mario's Paint Class and Paint Society and Garage Noise and Candyman, I've watched their videos and learned a bunch from them. So thank you to them. Take care. Y'all be blessed.